Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to this week's edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. The brothers Maxon, Nate, and Aaron are here with you right now, and on this week's show, we are going to review. We have suffered this week. Suffered a terrible, terrible fate. We are going to review one of the worst hunk of shit pay-per-views of all time. It's 1990.
It is not one of the worst.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
It's worse than Blackjack Brawl from the UWF.
Yes.
It is the worst pay-per-view of all time. It's 1999's Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view. So we will be reviewing that on today's show. And also digging into more of the 1992 Pro Wrestling Illustrated Top 500 this week. And Aaron, before we get started, is there anything that you want to say to the listeners?
Hey.
Howdy. I'm going to check and see how many listeners we have right now. Real quick, just an update. See where we're at. Aaron always says we have like 7 listeners, but
Consistent ones.
well, we've gone above 1,000. 1,078.
All right.
So thank you to all of you for listening to the show. We appreciate your support. And just a reminder, if you want to join our Facebook group, you can. It's the We Can't Wrestle Facebook group, of course, on Facebook. Look us up. And you can elect to join, and one of the admins can approve you on that. And other than that, you know, let's get going. Let's get going with the show here. Aaron has the 1992 edition of the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Top 500 in his possession, and we went through some last week, and we're going to dig into it a little more this week as well. We have both picked 4 random numbers, and we're going to rattle those off and see what lucky wrestlers get featured on this week's edition of the show.
Lucky bastards.
Lucky bastards. Especially you, Don Montoya. Remember that fat fuck? Anyway, I think he might be dead. I don't know. So the first number I picked is 496.
496.
Yes.
All right. Let me peel back this onion here, and I will find it.
And I think when you sent me your numbers, you picked number 79. I think we did 79 last week. I think I picked 79.
If we did, I'll pick another one.
Okay.
But what did you say? 296?
496.
496?
Yes.
This guy's name is Duke Snyder.
I know that guy. He worked for me once.
I have no idea who he is. He's 5'7". He was 230 pounds. He's got 2 years in the business. And in 1991, he was ranked 495. So his career dipped a little bit.
His career dipped a little bit in 1992.
Yes. He was also billed as Mad Dog Duke and Pitbull Duke. Sounds a lot more fearsome than he is.
Mad Dog Duke.
And
when he
competes mainly in New York, and his description is an aging ball of hair. I don't even know what that fucking means.
Usually when he wrestled, most people went to take a Mad Dog Duke. That was...
Yes.
All right. So my next number, we're going to go a little high on this one. Number 32.
32.
Yes. And while you're looking that up, I have to share just a little bit before we started recording, I saw a meme, and I think you think it was funny. And I think our listeners would think it's funny, too. It said, me opening my electric bill. Don't be high, don't be high, don't be high. And then it said, my electric bill. And it showed a picture of Willie Nelson. Anyway.
Number 32. This man in 1992 stood 6 foot. He weighed 226 pounds. He had 5 years in the business. And the year before, he was ranked 45, so he's 91. Nope. His 92 was better than his 91, and it was Flying Brian Pillman.
Brian Pillman, one of the greats of all time.
Flying Brian has flown into stardom. 2-time former WCW light heavyweight champ. Incredible aerial ability, surprising strength, still getting better, and he's immensely popular.
You know, Brian Pillman's one of the great tragedies of wrestling, in my opinion.
Yes.
You know, because had he not had that accident and not had to go on all those pain pills and not had to kind of ground his wrestling game, I think we would be talking about Pillman in the same vein that we talk about, you know, the other guys, the other big guys from the Attitude Era, like Foley and Austin and The Rock, and he would have been there, you know.
Well, the only thing I can say about it is, I enjoy both Brian Pillmans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because there really is 2 Brian Pillmans.
Yeah. Just it's much like
if it wouldn't have been for the accident and him being forced to change his style, would he have gotten the loose cannon?
Well,
you know what I mean?
I don't know what. Maybe not, but
because the loose cannon character wouldn't have worked wrestling the style of Flying Brian Pillman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also think he could have still been an effective heel. Because
I know he would have been an effective heel. I'm just saying I don't think he would have got that Brian Pillman.
Yeah, you're probably right. Because
he would have still been able to, because he was a heel when he was in the Hollywood Blondes and shit like that.
And he was great. And actually, one of my favorite heel turns is when he turns on Brad Armstrong.
Yeah.
Like that whole little story, and he did so good with that. I don't know. I still think that potential being potential and talent being talent, he still would have been one of the top stars of the Attitude Era. Had he not gone down that road.
Yeah.
All right, next.
I just think it would have been a different type of thing.
Probably. You're probably right. Because, like you said, the loose cannon gimmick almost came from trying to be relevant, trying to stay relevant because he couldn't compete at the time, and then working that into his wrestling gimmick once he could get back in the ring.
Yeah.
How about number 284?
280, you're like all over the fucking radar, man. 284.
Yes.
284. 284 is Olympic strongman Ken Patera.
Damn. I didn't even know Ken Patera was still wrestling in 1992.
Apparently was. And he was 6'1", 256 pounds. He was 19 years into his career. And the year before, he was ranked 98.
Jesus.
The former U.S. Olympic weightlifter seems to be nearing the end of his career. Makes a few appearances in his day. One of the very best, a former IC and AWA World Tag Team Champion. Olympic strongman Ken Patera.
Probably bumping around the independent scene in 92. Yes. Having matches with Greg Valentine.
Yes. Over who's the greatest IC champion of all time. And they were
at PWC in North Hoboken, New Jersey.
They were probably pretty bad.
Valentine would come around when he wasn't doing like those one-offs with the WWF or WCW.
Yeah. You'd have to
Actually,
send somebody.
actually, 92. Actually, at 92, I think Valentine was the U.S. Tag Champs with Terry Taylor in WCW.
Yeah, something like that.
And last but not least, let's do 379.
379 is Tony Capone.
Tony Capone.
Jesus Christ.
Did his mom come up with his wrestling name?
Apparently.
It rhymes, Tony. You should make your last name Capone.
This burly godfather is a former NAWA champion. This brawler captured the first Connecticut-based IWF title in May 1991. Claims to have friends in low places. Fuck this guy.
He sounds like one of those guys that would be wrestling snooker in those northeast independent shows.
Yeah, just fucking.
When the Metal Maniac can't make it, Snooker's gonna face Tony Capone.
You're right. You picked 79, so I'll let you pick my last number.
All right. How about 96?
96. So we'll start with that one.
Okay.
96. Go to that. Number 96 is Primetime Brian Lee.
The fake Undertaker. The Underfaker.
He was 6'2", 245 pounds. He'd been in the business 3 years, and last year, in 1991, he was not listed. He is the former partner of Robert Fuller, is among the year's most improved stars, the current Smoky Mountain champion. Once he saw through Robert Fuller's ruse, he became very scientific, and he's a true credit to the sport.
In other words, he turned babyface.
Yes.
He became very scientific.
Yes.
I was never a big fan of Brian Lee. That guy never did anything for me.
He was what he was.
Yeah, like Smoky Mountain, ECW, WWE. I just never cared for the dude. I don't know. I don't hate him. Like, he's not one of those guys that I'm like, God, fucking Brian. But I just, no, Brian Lee's like, to me, he's one of those guys that's just, the wrestling world could have lived without him, and he's indifferent. I'm indifferent to him. I never was a big fan. I didn't think I always thought he looked like he was tall, but he just, I don't know, he looked kind of dumpy, and he didn't have a lick of fucking charisma. I didn't like the guy. But apparently Jim Cornette saw something in him.
Yeah.
And then Jim Cornette's a hell of a better judge of wrestling talent than I am, so what have you, but I'm never a fan of Primetime Brian Lee. I said my piece.
Yeah. The next person on my list came in at 3. I picked 345, and it is a gentleman named David Power.
David Power. He's probably part of a tag team.
He is.
Power Twins.
Yeah.
That was a fucking guess, I swear to God.
Oh, you haven't listened to John Arezzi's Wrestling Spotlight? Oh my God, this guy's amazing. I'll read his biography here. Hard to tell David and his twin Larry apart. David has actually spent more time as a solo wrestler than Larry has. David displays a bit more wrestling acumen, and I've been listening to a podcast with John Arezzi, who goes back and plays clips of his podcast Wrestling Spotlight, and this David Power guy is amazing. People will call and they'll ask him a question, and they'll be like, "Why don't you just shut up, you stupid moron?" And he's like an amazing heel, and he just heals everybody. And it's all live, it's not like.
Yeah, it was a radio show.
Yeah, and people would call in and They'd ask him a question, and he'd be like, "Oh, let me tell you why you're such an idiot, stupid moron." And like they'd have him like read commercials, and he'd be like, "For all you morons out there, just in case you don't know the number, I'll read it again." Like he's just like insulting not the product that they're trying to sell, but the people that would be buying it. Yeah, you should check it out. This David Power guy, I'm a fan.
Well, there you go.
I didn't even know that was gonna be him. That's great. All right, next on my list is number 87. So let's scroll a little bit. I used to love when this thing would come out every
Me
year.
too. It was the best. It was one of the best times of the year as a young wrestling fan. The PWI 500. And I'd always be interested to look at the, like 500 through 400, just to.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. I even had a system for how I read it. Like, I would not look at the front of the countdown. I would start at 500 and I would work my way through and earn every one of those spots.
Yeah, you can't just start at the front. It's boring. Number 87 is the Iceman King Parsons.
Another guy I was never a big fan of.
I don't know a lot about him.
Well,
I know him. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, watching World Class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never.
At this time he was still going strong though, and he was teaming with Action Jackson. And they were the Blackbirds, and they were the Blackbirds from the Big D.
Okay.
And he shuttles between rule breaking and scientific working.
Scientific.
And he delivers memorable interviews.
That's something that's missing. That's something that when kayfabe died, that's a fun thing that happened. That with the after mags, like when you were a babyface, you were a scientific wrestler. But when you turned bad guy, you just became a cheating motherfucker that didn't do any wrestling holds, or you're just a low down dirty son of a bitch. You forgot all your wrestling holds. You're not a scientific wrestler. You're a rule breaker. That stuff doesn't exist anymore. Those that didn't live in the kayfabe era have no idea what you're fucking missing. No idea.
I know. I remember like videos where he would he was like delivering blocks of ice, and then he'd hit his butt into it or whatever.
Yeah, and he was trying to think here. He came from he came from the what's that? He came from the Thunderbolt Patterson school of promos, not the Ernie Ladd school of promos, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He did the I don't know, just the very stereotypical
shucking and jiving.
Yeah, that kind of a thing. Not Ernie Ladd, who presented himself not as a cartoon but as a man. You know what I mean? Not as a characteristic of what an African American man is, but as Ernie Ladd, a man. Whereas, the Thunderbolt and Iceman did the and sometimes it's your territory. I understand. I guess. That was that guy wrestled in mainly southern territories, and Ernie Ladd wrestled in New York and St. Louis and places where he didn't have to act that way for the audience to react to him, I guess is what I'm saying. But I never thought Parsons was very good as a wrestler. I'm just not a fan. This part of the 500 that you're picking today is just a bunch of guys I'm like, not a fan.
Well, maybe this guy you're a fan of, because he came in at number 55.
All right.
And his name is Repo Man.
Oh, yeah, definitely a fan of Repo Man.
Talented former Demolition member is burying himself with this new image. Ties his foes up with a tow rope after his bouts. A great tag team wrestler who now seems lost on his own.
That's like one of the most
they weren't a fan of the Repo Man.
Well, no, and that description of the Repo Man is very out of character for Pro Wrestling Illustrated too. Like they broke kayfabe. They were like former demolition guy burying himself.
Yeah,
like
they weren't happy about it.
They used some dirt sheet language there. But I don't care what they say. I liked the Repo Man gimmick.
Yep.
And you know what? He was over, and he was funny. And he had that stupid 1 week feud with Randy Savage in '93 where he stole his hat. This is getting serious, brother.
People seem to bowl the spot. Uh-huh.
Then he repossessed Rob Bartlett's car. And he had some good matches. Like, he had some decent matches on primetime with, well, I mean, it's Barry Darso, but I'm saying, like, you know, he had good matches with Tito Santana and hell, Virgil. I mean, Repo Man was like for probably about I don't know, in '92.
Nobody ever had a decent match.
In '92, it was funny because the Repo Man was like a staple of primetime wrestling. Like he was on every week. Repo Man was wrestling somebody somewhere. But all right, well,
I saw it was like a one-off thing, and they teamed once. And I thought it should have been a thing. I think it was Tuesday in Texas.
Repo Man and Ted DiBiase?
Yeah. Like, Repo Man should have been with Money Inc. He shouldn't have been like an official member or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have worked as like a toady or whatever.
Yeah. DiBiase has a business deal go bad. Repo Man repossesses somebody's yacht or something.
Yeah.
IRS is like, you owe back taxes and you can't pay it, so we're going to take your car.
And who's going to get it for us?
The Repo Man.
Repo Man. I like Repo Man.
Me too. Probably the only time I didn't like... I wasn't a big fan of Blacktop Bully. That was a gimmick that I didn't really care for Darso in. But I even actually kind of dug Darso's golfer gimmick.
Yeah.
Like...
I didn't mind Blacktop Bully.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. And again, I didn't hate it, but not a big fan of the gimmick. I don't know. Just... Yeah. But anyway... So there's that, right? Our dive into the PWI Top 500 from 1992. I think I'm going to try and locate some of my old 500s, and we'll go through some other years, too, as time goes on. But we're still in 92 right now.
Yes.
And that being said, I guess we'll take a break, and when we come back, it's the train wreck that is... the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view from 1999. Get ready for this one, listeners, because it is hot garbage. And we'll be right back with more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate and Aaron here with you. I was going to say Nate, Aaron, and Kyle, but Kyle's absent. Didn't even call in sick. He's just absent. But Nate and Aaron here with you.
Show that's 4 points.
Nate and Aaron here with you on this week's edition of the show. Just want to remind everybody one more time, I'm doing this one more week for both podcasts. We are available now on Spotify, so if you don't want to have to download the show, if you just want to listen streaming on Spotify, you can indeed do that. Other than that, any podcast app that you use, you can listen to the show. We are available on all of them. And also want to remind you to listen to the other podcast in my podcast family, the Motley Soup podcast. Pop culture podcast. We just talk about whatever. Myself and my beautiful wife Kendall talking about whatever on the Motley Soup podcast. So look that one up too. Also available on Spotify and in every podcast
Which
app.
I've been invited to be on.
You have yet to be on one of those shows. We got to make that happen sometime.
Your ratings would go up.
That being said, speaking of ratings, let's talk about a dumpster fire. Let's talk about the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view, which took place on October 10th, 1999.
And it involved these people. Samu, the Samoan Savage, Marty Jannetty, Greg Valentine, Two Cold Scorpio, Luke and Butch, the Iron Sheik, Tully Blanchard, Stan Lane, Bob Orton Jr., the One Man Gang, Abdul the Butcher, Jake Roberts, George Steele, Sherry Martel, Yokozuna, King Kong Bundy, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Captain Lou Albano, Jimmy Snuka, Nikolai Volkov, and Tommy Rogers.
You would think it would be halfway decent.
9 of the 23 of these people are dead.
It took place in a casino in, of all places, Mississippi.
Casino Magic is what it was called.
In doing my research for the show, I found out that originally the play-by-play man for this show was supposed to be Gordon Soley.
Yes, but he gave himself when
his
gave himself throat cancer, so he didn't have to be involved.
I was about to say, apparently what happened was his health deteriorated to the point where he could not participate. So my first note on this pay-per-view is so bad it killed Gordon Soley.
I put that he gave himself throat cancer.
He smoked 16 packs of cigarettes one day to make sure.
Yeah.
So we...
it wasn't in the research, but I'm assuming that everybody either got paid in coochie or blow to be on the show. And they also thought that this was going to be so successful that they were going to do 4 of these a year.
Yeah. Yeah, this was going to be a series.
Yes.
Oh, thank God that didn't happen.
This guy apparently was like, I got enough coochie and blow that we can get 4 of these done a year.
His name was Bill Stone. Bill
Well,
Stone.
his coochie and blow ran out because nobody came back. And
that or Roberts took all his blow.
Yeah. And I do have a Q&A out of this, like a question, and see what your answer is.
Mm.
And the question is, what do George the Animal Steel and Ric Flair have in common besides being wrestlers?
They both apparently, according to storyline, fucked Sherry Martel.
And Miss Elizabeth.
Big Pimpin' George Steele. So at the beginning of the show, one of the things I noticed was, what's that announcer's name? Rosenstein or something? Rob Rosenstein or Rosenblum?
Yeah.
He says, I'm joined...
He knows nothing about wrestling.
He says, I'm joined by the dirty guy, Dutch Mantel. The dirty guy, Dutch Mantel.
What about the pull apart between King Kong Bundy and Yokozuna?
Oof. No, it's not Yokozuna. It's the former Yokozuna.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like they say, formerly Yokozuna, Luke and Butch, formerly the Bushwhackers.
Like, why don't you
just say formerly in front of it? You're still calling them that.
The former Yokozuna.
Yeah, like Eric Bischoff wasn't like coming to the ring as the man formerly known as the Big Boss Man. That's not how it works.
Shit. Now, the best part of this pay-per-view is before the first match starts, that ring announcer.
Yes. Let me say what he says.
He says,
The fucking ring announcer.
I'll,
He said, someone's gonna get it
somebody's gonna get their ass whooped.
here tonight. I said, the fucking announcer's tagline was, someone's gonna get their ass whooped up in here tonight.
That's the best part of that actually.
Yeah.
That actually popped me. That was the best part of the show. He was like, and ladies and gentlemen, somebody's got to get their ass whipped tonight.
He didn't say whooped tonight. The announcer's tagline was, someone's going to get their ass whooped up in here tonight. He said, up in here tonight. That shit popped me. This is amazing.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I wrote that down. I actually wrote ass whoop tonight.
Yeah, that was good. What was bad was their half-assed attempt to, like, pay homage to Gorilla Monsoon.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that, too?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they played, like, that's how quick it was. It was, like, a 5-second shitty picture of Gorilla Monsoon.
No, I don't even remember seeing that.
Yeah, and it just was like, respects, or whatever.
Respects.
A horrible picture of Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, Lord. So the opening match was not terrible. It was the SST against Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers. And it wasn't a terrible match. The commentary... Huh?
It wasn't terrible, but some pickle sucker was out there, like, cutting a promo. Like, who was that guy?
Pickle sucker.
Like, he cut, like, a shitty promo, trying to be, like, a half-ass Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, or whatever. Fuck that guy. It wasn't even, like, it was like the bargain bin Samoans. It was Samoan Savage, Samu, and then like they didn't even have Asa at ringside. It was Sika.
You're right. It is the bargain basement Samoans.
And they came out to that music that didn't even fit like Samoans. Like it would have been better if they came out to no music.
Yeah.
But Samu did hit a pretty kick-ass TKO on Marty Jannetty.
Yes, and like I said, I didn't think the match was terrible. It was passable.
I gave it half a star. It was alright.
I gave it a yep and a half. So now we see what I wrote down was Sensational Sherry and George Steele having sex. Because that's the next segment. Actually...
I wrote that George Steele is with Sherry Martel, and George the Animal Steele is dressed as a Goomba. He looked like an extra from The Sopranos. Like
hey!
Not a character that matters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had on, like, the black sunglasses and, like, a fucking sweater deal. Yeah. He looked like a discount mobster.
And then as him and Sherry leave the thing and go into a room, her clothes just like... what the fuck? Did you notice that?
Yeah, but she was blowing him to get to Greg Valentine.
So that's the next match is George the Animal Steele and Greg Valentine. And I don't know if anybody's ever blown anybody to get to Greg Valentine. But in the Heroes of Wrestling world, Sherry Martel did. This match is terrible, by the way.
Oh, it's a dud.
These two guys showed up to get that check.
It was just terrible.
But Sherry heel turns on George the Animal Steele. And Valentine goes over in this match. According to Wikipedia, 6 minutes and 37 seconds. And it felt like an hour, but
and then at the end of the match, George Steele pulls a Bret Hart, starts destroying the set, and then Greg Valentine comes back for nope. Like they beat him up, okay, and then Steele like smacks the commentating table around, throws some chairs and everything. And then Greg Valentine, he comes back for no fucking reason. Like, he's got the girl, he's won the match, they leave, and then he comes back out and gets hit once, and then he leaves again. This is a fucking dumpster fire.
They were planning for that next show. You gotta come back. This is gonna be a big angle for the Heroes of Wrestling. It's gonna be a huge promotion. So next we get a promo from this Julio Fantastico dude. Is there any story that I'm missing on Julio Fantastico? Was he an ECW guy at some point that I just forgot about? Or, I mean, was there like a 90s story about this guy that I forgot about because they try to act like he's a big deal, so...
I have no idea.
Okay. Well,
but it took me a minute, and I realized who the interviewer was.
It's that dude that hosted USWA.
Yeah, when they merged that and World Class.
Yes. Michael St. John.
Michael St. John or Michael McDonald or whatever the fuck his name is. It took me a minute, but I was like, that's that guy.
Julio Fantastico does a terrible... Well, it's not a terrible promo, but what it is it's like the most cookie-cutter heel promo ever. Like, he says all of the heel cliche things. I'm just... Sorry. Oh, okay. He was in ECW. He was in... He was Julio De Niro and teamed with Easy Money in ECW in 2000.
He probably had that great epic feud with fucking Danny Doring and Roadkill.
Probably. But yeah, he was in ECW in 2000. But anyway, so Julio De Niro cuts, like I said, the cookie cutter heel promo. Like, he says every heel cliche thing all mixed into one promo. This town stinks. You guys suck. I'm the best in the world. Too Cold Scorpio sucks. Puts down the interviewer, and it's garbage. And then him and Too Cold Scorpio have an okay match.
Which Too Cold Scorpio, I don't know if you noticed, but he came out with the big gold belt.
Yeah, I did.
For no reason.
He bought one on titles.com or whatever, and he's gonna wear it tonight.
Either that or like some other guy fucking had it and couldn't afford to pay for the weed that he bought off Too Cold Scorpio. They gave me the big gold belt. He's like, all right, there you go, buddy. And Too Cold Scorpio, like, was a rose in a weed field. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, why is oh man, Too Cold Scorpio.
Yeah, but Too Cold did a lot of shit like that. Like, Too Cold is one of those guys that, like, hey, you gonna book me? You gonna pay me? I'll do your show. You know, he did a lot of that in the 90s and 2000s. Like, when he wasn't working for Vince, fuck it, I'll do this stupid show. He did a lot of that shit.
But Captain Lou Albano, he was on commentary. All right. And I think I paid more attention to this show than you did. But he has one of the best lines I've ever heard. He says one of the funniest things I've ever heard anybody say. Hands down, one of the funniest things I've ever heard anybody say.
Okay.
That commentator guy that's out there with the dirty man.
Yes.
He says... Because the commentator says something, I don't even remember what it was, but it was something fucking ignorant. And Lou Albano said, hey, Dutch, this commentator has the brain of a dehydrated baby.
A dehydrated baby.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, but it made me laugh so
Albano doesn't even know what that
He
means.
was like, hey, Dutch, this guy, he has the brain of a dehydrated baby.
Oh, Lord have mercy. All right.
Oh, Kyle just came back with something. You can edit this out.
Dehydrated baby. That's funny.
Yes. And Too Cold hits a move, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And hits it. Like, he actually hits it. But they don't finish the match. And then he goes back up for something else. And the commentator calls it the tumbleweed. But when he goes to hit said tumbleweed to finish the match, if you watch it, he completely misses Julio Fantastico, or whatever the fuck this guy's name is this week. Misses him by a mile, and dude sells it, and he covers him, pins him. It's fucking garbage.
That guy was just making shit up, by the way, during that pay-per-view, that announcer. Like, when Marty Jannetty did an arm drag, he called it a reverse slam takedown.
Yes.
Like, what?
He called, no lie, he called Tommy Rogers 2 times the Fantastic Rogers. Look at that move from the Fantastic Rogers.
What did you think about that move, dirty guy?
Yeah.
The dirty guy, Dutch Mantel.
Dirty guy, Dutch
I will
man.
never forget that for the rest of my life now. I think I blocked it out of my memory from the first time. So now we find out after the Scorpio Fantastico match that our new commissioner is going to be Captain Lou Albano. In a very awkward segment with the three guys sitting at the table.
It's because he brought the 6-pack.
Albano gets some kind of a proclamation. He's going to be the new commissioner of Heroes of Wrestling.
Do you know how they decided the commissioner of Heroes of Wrestling?
I do not.
If the current commissioner dies, whoever finds his body
is the new commissioner.
Is the new commissioner.
Well, this commissioner is fat and has flip-flops, and he is Captain Lou Albano.
And before that, the last fat commissioner in flip-flops was Bob Geigel.
who had a head that looked like a boulder.
He looked like a fucking waterhead baby. That might be the wrong term.
So the mess.
Whenever I saw Bob Geigel, there's guys that look
dumb,
but they're smart, and then there's people that look smart but they're dumb. Bob Geigel looked exactly like what he was. Like whenever I heard Bob Geigel or saw Bob Geigel, and then he would speak, I'm like, you're a fucking moron. Like, how is this guy the president of anything?
Because he was Sam Mushnick's lackey boy. So that's how he got his position in the NWA.
Wrong.
He was like, he wiped Sam Mushnick's pudding off his lip or whatever when he was old. And
well, he's a fucking moron.
So the next match on this abortion of a pay-per-view, after a King Kong Bundy promo, we have the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov against the former Bushwhackers, Luke and Butch.
Which they also claimed that this was a match between two former WWF Tag Team Champions. And then this fucking stupid commentator says, look at this, coming out to the ring, Luke and Dutch.
I caught that. I actually have that here on my notes. Luke and Dutch.
And the dirty guy
It's not the dirty guy.
Huh?
I said it's not the dirty guy Dutch. It's the former Bushwhacker Dutch.
The dirty guy corrects him. And he goes, "Excuse me? What did you just say?" And then he goes, "Oh, I mean Butch." It's like, yeah, you fucking moron. Like, Dutch Mantel is probably just melting in his chair, like, what the
Dutch Mantel on this night felt like Gorilla Monsoon and Macho Man Randy Savage did at the King of the Ring '94. Unfortunately, Dutch couldn't just ignore this guy.
Yeah.
So I have on here that the Nikolai Volkov, of course, has some manager that's supposed to be Russian, and it did or did not that guy sound like he was out of the cast of The Sopranos?
Yeah.
Like, he sounded like a Paisan instead of a Russian. Like, he's like a Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah.
He's the Russian. He's gonna sing the national anthem. That's not Russian.
And, like, Iron Sheik's out there with some, like, stanchions or whatever from a movie.
Yeah, that's what he's gonna do his thing with.
Brush the club thing with. He's got, is that the right word? Stanchions?
Yes.
So he's got stanchions from a movie theater, and fucking Antonio Volkov.
I was about to say Nikolai Soprano is his.
Yeah, Antonio Volkov is like, hey, Iron Sheik's gonna do his
fucking
fucking Iranian fucking stanchions, and Nikolai's like, no, fucker, I gotta do my national anthem first. And then he's like, oh yeah, he's gonna go his Russian theme first. Like, this guy
Glasnost, you know, it's fucking Glasnost.
He can't even get the shit right. So then fucking Volkov sings his song, and then fucking Sheik swings his stanchions around. It's a fucking goddamn train wreck. And Luke and Dutch come out. And they have possibly one of the worst wrestling matches I've ever seen.
It's pretty fucking bad.
And it goes forever.
It seemingly does. Hold on, let me get back to Wikipedia here. It was 8 minutes and 42 seconds, but it felt like 3 hours. Take the worst, like, indie legends wrestling match you've ever seen, where two legends are on an indie show just doing a shitty match, and this is worse. Of course, like you said, they all got paid in blow, so they're probably all high.
Yeah.
Just getting a check from a money mark. The former Bushwhackers go over here. I can honestly say I zoned out and I don't even remember how the match finished. I just was reading something else and heard the music start, so I know the Bushwhackers won.
It fucking sucked. I don't even want to talk about it.
The next match on the show is Tully Blanchard against Stan Lane. And one takeaway I got from the beginning of this, Tully Blanchard does a decent interview.
When he shows up in the limo?
Yes.
He looks like your regional manager just showed up for
And a question I have after watching the beginning of this match with Stan Lane coming to the ring and then doing his promo at the beginning of the match, is there something I should know about Stan Lane and Billy Gunn's mother? Is Stan Lane Billy Gunn's daddy?
This is like actually the only quasi good thing on the show. Because Tully cuts a good promo, and then Stan goes out there and just basically shuts the shit down.
Yeah, he heals on everybody.
And says, like, this is without saying it, he says, this is the most unprofessional fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And just cuts a promo on everybody. And goes, look, I got a legitimate job. I'm on ESPN. And then he's like, Tully Blanchard comes out. And he's like, I'm on ESPN, and this guy's preaching to losers in a tent. Like, ooh. And, like, Stan Lane is honestly, and Tully Blanchard too, they're, like, honestly the only good thing on this show.
Yeah.
And they have an okay match.
Yeah, it's a good match. And Tully goes over. Then we get Jim Neidhart and King Kong Bundy rambling in a promo. That's what I put. Neidhart Bundy ramble.
Yeah.
And the next match is god-awful.
I barely watched it.
Yeah, me too. It's Abdullah the Butcher and the one-man gang. And Abdullah the Butcher is led to the ring by that fat fuck John Cheatham, who, you know, if Tully Blanchard is your district manager, then John Cheatham is your deli manager.
He'd be my bike assembly. Put that guy in a corner in the back.
Him and Abby waddle to the ring together. And you know, all you have to do to be Abdullah the Butcher's manager on TV is drive him around. It's like all of his managers, other than like in the majors, like when he was with Gary Hart or whatever, but all of his indie managers are always just like the fat guy that drives them around or whatever.
When they came out, their theme song should have been like diabetes, diabetes, diabetes,
hepatitis, diabetes, and hepatitis, diabetes and hepatitis.
Yeah, it's fucking garbage.
But anyway,
they went to a draw.
Yeah, they went to a draw. One man gang gets color, and
Sure, Abby.
What's that?
Abby did too, didn't
Yeah, but Abby always gets color. They do a silly thing at the end where they're like beating up security, trying to get to each other, and Rosenblum and the dirty guy Dutch are trying to put it over, but it's garbage. And then there's a stupid thing. It's just a stupid thing, like where they have Bob Orton and Jimmy Snuka playing cards.
Like they're on ESPN at like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and Albano actually made me laugh in this. Like he's just like I should try to find it and play it on the show, but when he goes off on Orton, it's actually kind of funny. Like, you're the most cheatingest bastard and blah blah blah. But anyway, it's a stupid segment.
Well, they took like 3 talented people and put them together
and made them do something stupid, and they made it. I guess they made it work, but it's bad anyway. But Orton cheats Albano in cards, and then Snuka. So we're gonna have Jimmy Snuka and Bob Orton Jr.
And Bob Orton is wearing his cowboy poncho and gym shorts.
Because again, everybody that night was working for a money mark, so
yep,
he's just gonna show up and do his thing. The match isn't fucking terrible, but it's not great. It's like a 70s MSG match. It's like a 70s MSG main event. That's the best way I can describe it. And Snuka goes over. The funniest thing about it is after the match, when Snuka's celebrating the ring, it is funny how Bob Orton just stands there at the entrance and look. Did you notice that? And like just looks at him, and that was just Orton's psychology. You know, Randy does the same kind of things, but yeah, Bob Orton gets up to the top of the ramp and just stands there at the entrance thing, just looking at Snuka like he's a son of a bitch for a couple of minutes. But so that one's in the books. And now, the real main event starts.
This human piece of shit.
So Jake Roberts is going to do a promo with Michael St. James. I forget Michael St. what? Michael St.
What his fucking name is.
Michael St. Francis, whatever his name is. I put here, Jake was probably so drunk. Jake is probably so drunk his breath bleaches the announcer's hair.
And Jake wasn't drunk.
Well, I'm sure there was alcohol involved.
Well, there was, but he wasn't drunk. Jake was high as a motherfucker. And
It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. And it is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
You don't want to play cards with me, is I'll cheat. Want to play 21? I got 22. That means you lost, Jake. You fucking idiot. But the best one, you want to play blackjack? I've got 2 of those, too. What does that even mean?
I don't know. This guy snorted everybody's payday.
Jake Roberts in this promo is acting like every belligerent guy you've ever dealt with outside of a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning, or in the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's the best way I can describe it. He's like the belligerent guy at the bar. You don't want to play cards with me because I'll cheat.
Then he had some chick at ringside like honk his titty.
Yeah, that was fucking disgusting. I was trying to figure out which one had bigger titties, him or the fat girl that was feeling him up. Well, and then Neidhart comes out, and Jake comes out, puts the snake on the ring, and then leaves again. And you can just visibly see that Neidhart's... And this is Jim Neidhart, a guy who does not necessarily shy away from getting fucked up.
Jim Neidhart. Jim the Evil Neidhart is the sensible one in the situation.
Yes. He even looks disheveled, but at least he's with it, you know? And
yeah.
Like, he's like, what the fuck?
He's like, I only did 3 toots. How many did this guy do?
And once Jake does get in the ring, it's almost unwatchable, the match that the guys have. It's not Neidhart's fault. And then eventually, Jake just lays down in the ring with his snake. As a matter of fact, he makes his snake look like it's a dick.
And he masturbates
it. And then if I'm lying, I'm dying, folks. I put the goddamn thing on YouTube for you to watch it. So we're not making this up. And then he's like licking his snake, and Neidhart's like, I have to get away from you, Jake.
You're like going to die.
So then they send Bundy out. Somebody involved in this thing was like, this has to be saved somehow. So they send Bundy out. Bundy's jaw-jacking Jake Roberts.
Probably Stan Lane.
And then Bundy and Neidhart proceed to beat up Jake Roberts, who practically no-sells it because he has no idea what's going on. So then they send out the former Yokozuna, who looks... It's sad, his condition, too. Physically. And, they have an impromptu... They just make this shit into a tag match. We were supposed to have Roberts and Neidhart, and then Bundy and Yokozuna. And instead, it's now a tag match. And, there's like a little Bundy guy.
Yeah. Fester.
I don't even know what to say. Other than this was pretty fucking bad.
They keep saying, like, Little Bundy, I think, was supposed to be a thing. But since Jake masturbated his snake...
Yeah, they keep saying Little Bundy.
Yeah. Like, I think Little Bundy was supposed to... But he was like a grown man. Like, he wasn't a midget.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. But then Bundy and Neidhart win. And it's just... And they have to fade to black because Jake gets up and he's about to like take off his pants.
Yeah, it just goes off.
Yeah. My final review of this was I hated myself for nearly 4 hours after watching this. Fuck everyone that made it, and fuck anyone that ordered it. Also, fuck everyone who bought a ticket. And they can also suck my ass and toss themselves off a fucking bridge. Anyone involved in this, anyone that purchased it, and anyone that supported it could just fuck off.
It is the worst pay-per-view of all time. It is Heroes of Wrestling. So, let me see here. I'm trying to... Okay, Stone then sent a member of the production crew, Michael Henry, to ringside to consult with the wrestlers. Bundy pinned Roberts by hitting him with a splash after Roberts had staggered and fallen around the ring several times. Despite Roberts not being the legal man in the ring, Yokozuna and Henry attempted to salvage the event and Roberts' reputation by trying to goad Roberts into attacking Henry, making his behavior seem scripted. Roberts was too inebriated to realize what was happening and remained oblivious to Yokozuna and Henry's attacks. Yokozuna then hit a Samoan drop on Henry to make the entire series of events feel scripted. While Yokozuna attacked Henry, Roberts began to disrobe in the middle of the ring, and the producers cut the feed immediately thereafter. I just wanted to read the...
So Henry was Little Bundy?
Yes, I guess so. So that was impromptu as well. Let's just call this guy Little Bundy and send him the fuck out there. Everybody panicked. And that's how it went down. The Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view. Take a bath after you watch this fucking thing. Jesus Christ. Everybody that was in that building needs to... What did Chris Rock say after Marilyn Manson performed at the VMAs? Everybody in this building needs to go to church right now.
Right now. It's fucking terrible, man.
Oh, it gets a half a yep from me. And that is only for the Stan Lane, Tully Blanchard match, and I did not mind the opening tag team match.
It gets nothing from me.
This thing was a colossal fuck all. A dumpster fire. Hot garbage. And I will, now that I've watched it one more time, for the sake of the show, I can safely say I will never watch this thing again.
I will not either.
In the rest of my life, never again.
I'm going to get on YouTube and mark it as inappropriate.
Reported as hate speech.
Yeah, and hopefully it gets taken down.
Oh, that's funny.
Good Lord.
So unless we have something else for this week's show, I think that's the end of it. We have covered the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view. And I think we did it with grace.
Just fucking makes me mad.
And since we talked so much about Jake Roberts and what an inebriated piece of shit he was during this pay-per-view, I guess to end the show, we should mention Jerry Gray, who's been fucked over by Jake Roberts. Jerry Gray, a great professional wrestler, a guy that wrestled in the Mid-Atlantic area, Crockett Promotions, world class, all over the United States and the world back in the 80s. Being one of those enhancement talents like a Barry Horowitz or a Iron Mike Sharp that helped to really make the guy they were putting over look even better. Jerry Gray is battling stage 4 cancer, and you actually can give to Jerry by going to his GoFundMe, which I will post on our Facebook page and our Facebook group periodically. and giving whatever you can to Jerry Gray to help him out with his medical bills, food, etc. As he battles this, he has depleted most of his savings battling cancer. So we do appreciate it, and so does Jerry, any support you can give him. A friend of the show, Jerry Gray, and just want to get that out there to end the show off, Aaron.
All right.
Do you have anything else for our listeners this week?
Just do not watch this pay-per-view. This thing is like...
And fuck me for putting it on the Facebook group, right?
Yeah, this video is like The Ring. Or what? No. It's that fucking video. Yeah, The Ring.
Yes, The Ring.
Yeah, you're gonna wind up looking like a fucking...
Like you have bell policy.
Yeah, like you got like bell policy and you're stuck in your fucking recliner.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us this week on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And we hope you will join us next week as, I'll let you know later in the week what our topic's going to be next week. I have not decided that yet. But thank you for joining us on the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
It's one of my favorite scary movie. Did you already start the theme song?
No, I have not.
It's one of my favorite scary movie moments. Like, I like the scary movies. I like all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Wayans brother ones are funny. But when she's talking about the video, and George Carlin's the creator or whatever, and he's in that room, and he's talking about Pootie Tang. You ever seen that?
Yes.
It's like, this video is just causing horrible things for everybody. And he's like, yes, just much like Pootie Tang. I'm messing it up. But that's, I don't know.
That's the gist of it.
Yes. This fucking pay-per-view is garbage, and nobody watch it.
This pay-per-view is much like Pootie Tang.
Like, don't bring it into your home.
If you're on the YouTubes, stay away from it.
I had to take 6 showers after watching this.
My wrestling fan license was revoked. I had to reapply to be a wrestling fan after watching this garbage. All right. That being said, once again, we will sign off here. We will join you next week with more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Until then, listeners, enjoy and enjoy your 4th of July. The next episode won't be out till probably after 4th of July anyway, so happy Independence Day. Enjoy your 4th of July, and thank you for joining us this week on the We Can't Wrestle podcast.